for this podcast episode. And now we're heading to the USA, and of course, that man, the Donald. So this time it was actually about Letitia James, who is the Attorney General of New York State. So this is the New York State Attorney General, Letitia James. And on Truth Social, and this was actually pretty much his latest post on there where he spoke about it. He says, Letitia James, a totally corrupt politician, should resign from a position as New York State Attorney General immediately. Everyone is trying to make New York great again, and it can never be done with this wacky crook in office. So the reason why I actually wanted to speak about this one, because I wanted to sort of cross-relate it with what's supposed to happen in episode 24 of Calling of a Ravenous Bird. Now, of course, I'm not going to go on too much about the victories and of course the political wins in terms of the results, and of course New York State and everything, which I've already pretty much lamented as to what New York actually looks like, where it's about 50-50 between the Democrats and the conservatives, meaning that New York could go either way, as well as the adjacent state of New Jersey. So they're also pretty much standing at 50-50, and that's all because of the Donald's support, and of course him being a native New Yorker had to do with the swinging of that. Now, the main thing was this, is that what I saw in that particular dream and everything was the fact that there was a victory in the middle of New York, which involved the U.S. Army. So there's going to be the U.S. Army coming in with a big parade. And of course, there was going to be an honoring of a black investigative journalist who's going to be honored during that whole thing. Of course, the guy himself didn't want any too much praise. It's something that he just was glad to do. But of course, Donald being the Donald and the way he is, and if you've ever watched these rallies, he will always call out the little person who doesn't really want to be known to the forefront. But this person was honored for their heroics. And when you look at Letitia James, who's the New York State attorney, there must be something that perhaps was found on her, especially with the work of the DOG, as in the DOGE, out in the USA, and of course headed up by Elon Musk, and the investigative stuff that they're going to be getting out. Somebody was very critical as far as in this hand of this. But when I also saw the presence of the army, I knew that it had to do with something to do with the elections. And of course, we'll see as far as the credentials there of it, because there is something in the New York? Terrible. I'm talking about the U.S. sort of, the U.S. Constitution. That means that the U.S. Army can pretty much come in and pretty much start investigating or start working as a means of counteracting treason, because stealing of an election is just that. So that is the alleged, of course, because I'm not trying to be politically correct as far as that's concerned, but you kind of have to say that because it's also going over to YouTube. So I understand why I'm speaking about that, but you guys know exactly how I stand on that. There's no wavering as far as that's concerned. Essentially, we've already seen that Donald Trump took the election anyway in 2024, and it was a landslide, and the swing states went the way. And I'm not going to repeat that information too much, but you'll start seeing and confirming if California is indeed red, and we'll see if, of course, the other swing states in this, in the ones that were being sort of contested. Remember, there's the 4, which was Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, and of course, it was the last one, Georgia, who had these court contestations still happening and still being active and pending at the time of this recording. So that will be the USA for now. I'm not going to go into much about the trade stuff. Covered that the last time a little bit, but not comprehensively.